Hey guys, welcome to the Binge Zone. On today's episode, we are going to be recapping season 1 of On My Block because with that wild cliffhanger, there's a lot going into season 2 and season 2 is right around the corner and the series begins and we're introduced to the main characters off rip. We have Ruby, Jamal, Caesar, and Monse, and they're overlooking a high school party and imagining themselves next summer in high school, and as the party's going on, gunshots are fired and the kids scatter, and that's really setting the tone for the rest of the season because while these kids are normal teenagers, the whole environment and area they live in is wild with guns, gangs, violence, parties, and fun. Typical inner city life, and it sets the tone and precedence for the rest of the series. And then we skip forward 10 weeks later and Monse comes back from riding camp and we come to find out that Caesar and Jamal and Ruby are not speaking, and Monse is wondering what happened. That's because Caesar told his crew that he has hit Monse. What I mean by hit Monse, like Caesar smash, like he had sexual intercourse with Monse. And that's what caused the boys to have a rift with Caesar. Monse has a big issue with this and she tries to confront Caesar. But then towards the end of the first episode, we come to find out that Monse and Caesar really did do the do and get down and busy, right? And get jiggy with it. And the crew now has to find a way to get Caesar out of his gang because Caesar has been jumped in and is now an official gang member of the Santos because his older brother Oscar has gotten out of prison early and Oscar ingratiated Caesar into the gang life, and now the crew has to find a way to get Caesar out of it. And that's when they decide Ruby should go speak to Oscar because Oscar has respect for Ruby's older brother Mario, and Ruby goes and does his thing, and Ruby's so convincing that instead of convincing Oscar to let Caesar walk, he actually gets Caesar promoted into higher ranks of the gang and gives Caesar greater responsibility. So it kind of worked as a double-edged sword in this scenario. While this is happening, back in Ruby's house, his older brother Mario went away to college and Ruby thought to himself he'd finally be getting his own room. However, a family friend's daughter comes to live with them, Olivia, and that's because her parents got deported and now she has to live with them, and she was introduced as Ruby's cousin because, you know, in the inner city, you have cousins that aren't really your cousins. They're like your family friends and you just call them cousins, but she's not blood related, and Ruby falls in love at first sight. So this is going to be an interesting plot point for the rest of the season because Ruby has a thing for Olivia meets Caesar, and Olivia has a thing for Caesar, and we already know about Monse and Caesar's thing, so it's gonna get messy. This first season is messy, fun, and kind of heartbreaking at the same time. But as the story progresses and Monse and Caesar's relationship gets more intense, Oscar starts to pull Caesar deeper into the gang world, and Caesar becomes more and more dangerous because of his affiliation with his brother. And as the weeks go by and Olivia becomes more ingratiated with the crew, homecoming comes and Ruby wants to go to Olivia. However, the dance gets canceled due to a gun being pulled out during a fight at the school, and now the party has to go back to Monse's house. And we get to see the inner workings and the relationship blossom between them. And while this is going on, Jamal himself isn't a part of this Love Quartet. Jamal is the other friend, the black friend, and he is actually out there finding out the treasures to Roller World. Now, Roller World is a whole conspiracy where it's an unsolved case where there's apparently a missing $50,000 from a heist that was done in the 80s. Now, it's an urban legend, but Jamal has this thing where he believes in urban legends and he believes the Roller World money is out there. And he gets more intel from Ruby's grandmother and she gives him a hint as to where to find the treasure or a clue to the treasure. So while we're having the Love Quartet, the gang wars and stuff, Jamal has his own whimsical adventure throughout the season, and it felt kind of out of place in the first season. However, because Jamal is one of the best characters on this show because he's funny and his whole storyline, while outrageous and outlandish, is one of the funnest storylines in this entire series, and I really enjoy the character of Jamal. So during Halloween, Jamal convinces them to go to a swanky neighborhood in Brentwood, California, which was where the rich and elite live, because he wants a clue as to the money of Roller World. And while this is happening, the crew gets confronted by a bunch of douchebag privileged kids who start to make fun of their inner city life and their gang life and kind of culturally appropriates or makes fun of their heritage, however you want to look at it. And at the same time, Monse sees someone who Monse believes is her mom because Monse's mom ran out on her and her dad when Monse was a baby and she's never seen her mom before, and now she sees a woman with 2 kids who looks exactly like her mom. But that reunion doesn't really get to happen because they're chased out of the neighborhood by the swanky rich kids who are about to jump them all, and the kids were egging them, and those kids were throwing eggs at them and egging them, and Caesar goes back with his brother Oscar because Caesar is now a full-fledged gang member. You're not going to punk Caesar and get away with it. So he goes back with Oscar and they punk these rich white kids for kind of making fun and appropriating or whatever you want to call it of Caesar's gang culture. You're just not going to punk them and get away with it. And with Caesar having his gang membership, Oscar punks them. And at the end of the episode, Olivia and Caesar kiss because at this point, Monse and Caesar are on this roller coaster journey. And, these are all 14 to 15-year-old kids. So, hormones are raging. So Monse is doing her own thing with Caesar and Caesar having the back and forth dance. So Caesar kisses Olivia and they make out. And the only person besides Olivia and Caesar who know about this is Jamal. And he is the worst person to tell a secret because Jamal cannot keep a secret to save his life. So when a police lockdown is instituted in their neighborhood during a heat wave, so Olivia, Monse, Ruby, and Jamal are all inside of Ruby's house and they're stuck together in the heat wave and Jamal is trying his best to keep the secret. And while that's happening, they start to play little games with each other like Smash, Marry, Kill and all these teenage games while Caesar is desperately making his way back to the house to stop Jamal from snitching. Caesar gets pulled over by a cop and this is the first actual cop we see it in this series, and that's very interesting and very funny because all this gun shooting and all this gun violence and gang war going on in this neighborhood, we haven't seen a cop yet, and we finally see a cop. And the first thing that happens, instead of the cop being a douchey cop to the inner city kid, he's actually a pretty cool guy and he helps Caesar with his women's troubles and he tries to rush Caesar back before Jamal can snitch. However, Olivia ends up telling everybody that she kissed Caesar, and then in response, Monse tells Olivia that Ruby has a crush on her. Now all their dirty laundry's out and about and now the whole friend group is kind of fractured and Jamal isn't the one who snitched, so he feels a sense of pride. However, Ruby's not mad at him because he's Ruby's best friend and he kept the secret of Olivia and Caesar from Ruby, and now the whole friendship is kind of on the rocks and kind of snapping at its seams because it's a whole love square and they're kids and their hormones, and it's wild at this moment, very wild between the friend group. Now with the group being fractured and infighting begins to happen, Jamal is at the center of it all because of his lie to Ruby as well as his football lie to his parents. And once the group has a big blow up at Jamal's football game, Monse decides to come out with another lie and say that her and Caesar are not a thing. It's the fact that she likes Caesar, but Caesar did not like her back, and Caesar lied to protect Monse's feelings from everyone finding out that Monse was rejected by Caesar. At the same time, Jamal scores the winning touchdown, and it's hilarious because Jamal doesn't play football. He sucks, but the fear of getting tackled allowed him to run damn near 100 yards down the field in order to score a touchdown and not get tackled, which unites the friend group. And Jamal has the courage to tell his father and his mother that he's not a football fan, he doesn't like football, and he doesn't play football. And with Monse lying to the crew, it's now okay for Olivia to date Caesar, and to keep the facade going on, Caesar and Olivia become girlfriend and boyfriend for the remainder of the series. That way, Caesar gets to keep the heat off Monse and Olivia gets what she wants. And with Olivia's quinceanera right around the corner, she becomes a little homesick. However, Ruby decides to take full responsibility for planning her quinceanera because now Ruby's playing the long game. He's gonna woo her by being a genuinely nice guy and a good friend. He's gonna be a nice guy and try to win, but Ruby doesn't know nice guys usually finish last. While this is happening, Monse is stalking her mother or her potential mother on Facebook. And with that, Jamal gets a clue about the location of the Roller World treasure and he tracks down Little Ricky. He ends up fighting Chivo and Julio the gnome. And this is when the series gets absurd with the whole gnome subplot. However, it's funny for a while, but the gnome thing is a little absurd. And it takes away from the dark edginess of Oscar's life. It's like a contradiction. Oscar and Caesar's gang life is contrasted by Jamal's whimsical adventure. Caesar gets confronted by Latrell, who's part of the rival gang, the Prophets. And if you think about it, the Prophets are one gang, the Santos are another gang. These gangs have religious names, and it's kind of another subtone of the series. However, we're not going to dive too deep into this because this is just a recap. And with Latrell confronting Caesar and pulling out a gun on him, he ends up telling his brother Oscar, and he goes to school anyway. Oscar comes and pulls Caesar out of school because with a rival gang hunting for you, you can't just be going to school with Latrell pulling a gun on you. And now the crew is worried about Caesar because he's really in this gang life. Like, guns are being pulled on him in the middle of the street, and now they're all freaking out of what could happen to Caesar. Is he okay? Is he safe? But Oscar pulls him out of school and spends the day with Caesar. And this episode actually humanizes Oscar, and we come to find out that Oscar was a genius kid, gifted, won spelling bees, and could have went something and become a great chef one day because that was his dream. However, even though he got letters of recommendation and he was in the gifted program at his school. But he did not follow that path because his mom wasn't really there for Caesar, so Oscar felt as an older brother, it was his responsibility to look out for Caesar. So he forgoed his life and joined the gang to protect his little brother. And it's ironic that his goal was to give Caesar a better life, and he ends up being the one that pulls Caesar into the gang life. But he uses it as a way to keep Caesar under his wing and protect him even more. But at the end of the day, Oscar's still a gang member, and he gives Caesar a gun and tells Caesar that he has to kill Latrell, because in order to be safe in this gang type of environment, it's kill or be killed. And the fact that he pulled a gun on you and you made it alive, you're lucky, and now you make sure that never happens again. And the way you do that is by shooting Latrell and killing him to make sure he doesn't kill you. It's a dog-eat-dog world in the gang world, with Caesar given the path of either killing Latrell or getting kicked out of his gang or potentially killed by his gang. He turns to Monse, who turns to Jamal. And Jamal is this close to find the Roller World treasure. So they come up with the plan. They're going to find the Roller World treasure, use the money, give it to Caesar, and have Caesar run away from this gang life. That way he doesn't have to kill anybody and lose his humanity, or potentially not kill Latrell and get killed himself for violating gang code. When they finally get to the treasure, they find out it's been a wild goose chase, and now Caesar has no choice but to confront Latrell, and he confronts Latrell in the bathroom, pulls out a gun on him, and a whole scene happens, and we fade to black. And we don't know if Caesar killed Latrell or not. Monse has a big blow up with Jamal, because they could have been using this time to actually help Caesar instead of going on Jamal's wild goose chase. So the crew blows up, and now Jamal's sick of everyone's shit, because everyone blames everything on Jamal. And if you've been watching this season or listening to this recap, Jamal's been doing his own thing, looking for the Roller World treasure. So he's not really involved with all their inner problems, but they keep blaming my man Jamal, right? And he's tired of it, and he gives them all the business. He's like, yo, I'm out this bitch, right? I'm not, this is bullshit. I'm not a part of this. You guys have your own problems. You keep blaming me. So Jamal walks off, and he doesn't even show up to the quinceanera of Olivia, who has nothing to do with this. However, he's beefing with his friends, so he's beefing with all of them. So the day of the quinceanera finally comes in the season finale, and we come to find out that Jamal never showed up to the quinceanera. And however, Caesar shows up, and he has a new haircut, looking like a Chulo gang member with the haircut. And he now tells the gang that he didn't kill Latrell. Him and Latrell came up with a plan where Latrell would disappear, and Caesar would look like he killed him, and that way Latrell gets to live, and Caesar gets to keep his street cred, so they don't come looking for Latrell either. So everything seems to be going well, and Jamal is almost giving up hope on Roller World, but he has a new found hope, and he keeps looking for the treasure. The quinceanera happens, and they're having a blast, and Olivia ends up breaking up with Caesar because she finds out that Caesar really is in love with Monse, and Monse loves Caesar, so she doesn't want to get in between them. However, as the quinceanera happens, Ruby has been planning it and doing so much for her and going above and beyond for Olivia. She finally starts to see the person who actually really cares about her is Ruby, and she starts to fall for him. So I guess the nice guy does work for Ruby, and they make out, and they're having a time of their life. They're dancing. Monse and Caesar let the world know they're together. Ruby has Olivia. Happy ending. And then Latrell shows up in the quinceanera, and Ruby spots him and tries to warn Caesar, but it's too late. Latrell pulls out his gun and shoots at Caesar and runs off. And then when the camera zooms out, we find out Latrell actually shot Ruby. The character who is the most innocent in the show, the nicest guy in the entire show, is the one who shot. And the bullet goes through Ruby and it hits Olivia, all because of Caesar. And at the same time, Jamal has found the treasure to Roller World. He has found $50,000. However, he can't really celebrate because he's not friends with his friends, and two of his best friends have been shot and they're being taken away. So we don't know what's going to happen to them in the second season. And that's sad because Jamal doesn't know that his best friends have been shot because of another one of his best friends. And the episode ends with a cliffhanger. Is Ruby dead? Is Olivia dead? We'll find out in season 2. And anyway, guys, that's been the recap for On My Block season 1. If you liked the video, definitely hit the thumbs up. Hit the subscribe button if you guys haven't already. And until next time, binge on.